Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I really wanted to talk about my C-section versus my vaginal birth. I know it's important to talk about this because leading up to having both of my kids, I only really ever heard the cons of having a C-section, but I didn't really hear about any potential cons of having a vaginal birth. I feel like all we really hear is like, do a vaginal birth, like it's so much better, it's natural, and like that seems like that is the narrative that is pushed, and I still prefer my vaginal birth over my C-section. I really do. But there are some things that are happening after the fact that I wish I just knew going into, that this could have been a potential possibility, that this could even happen to me. So I wanted to make this video to let other women know, like, if you're experiencing some of the things that I'm experiencing now, that you're not alone. But I also wanted to kind of make this somewhat informative for the woman that is going into having her baby or wants to have a baby in the future, just so you can know what could happen. And like I said, I still prefer my vaginal birth over my C-section. Like, I prefer the process way more, but the aftercare and all of the things that I'm having to deal with now after my vaginal birth is just so shocking to me, and I just wish I heard people talk about this. I literally never once heard anyone talk about the things that I'm going through right now. So let's get into the video. So with my son, I had a C-section and it was unplanned. With him, I had planned to do a home birth. I had the birthing tub and everything ready at home, and I was just ready to like do this thing naturally. But then, long story short, I ended up having to go into the hospital. They told me that he was gonna weigh a lot, told me my amniotic fluid was low, and all of these things that ended up not being true. But it was already too late. So we ended up doing an induction with him, and then, you know, intervention after intervention after intervention, and then I ended up having a C-section. And it was just really traumatic for me. It was just such a traumatic experience because it was something that we just didn't plan. They made me so scared. They made me think that I was gonna lose my baby, and like, it was just a lot. And I just really didn't like that experience. I just felt like from beginning to end, everything was forced, everything was rushed, everything was fear-based, and I hated that experience so, so much. So when it came to having my daughter, I knew that I needed to go in with a lot more preparation, a lot more knowledge, and I needed to find a care provider that really cared about me having the delivery and birth that I wanted. So I did my research. I spoke with a friend who was actually seeing that particular midwife at the time, and she had nothing but glowing reviews. So I decided that I was going to go with that same midwife, and she was amazing. She was great. She had done tons of V-BACs. Just so you know, in case you don't know what a V-BAC is a vaginal birth after C-section. So she had done so many of them, and she just made me feel really confident. She never scared me once, made me feel like my body was made for this and I could do it. It's more than possible for me to have a vaginal birth after C-section. And what a lot of doctors tell you after you have a C-section is that, oh, you have a high chance of rupture. If you have a C-section, you should only have another C-section after. You shouldn't do a vaginal birth after. And like, she did not even repeat that narrative to me. She like gave me facts, which I really appreciated, but really encouraged me to let me know, like, no, your body is made for this. And I loved it. I had such a good experience with her. So we ended up doing a home birth with my daughter. I had my baby at home in our bed. We moved to the tub for a little bit, but I just preferred like just being, you know, on my bed. I felt most comfortable there, and it was great. I had such a good birth experience. My best friend was there, my husband was there, and they were just, it was just, I was able to build the environment that I wanted, and they prayed for me. At times we had worship music going. It was just such a good experience. 10 out of 10. So I really just preferred my vaginal birth over my C-section. So then once I had my daughter and I was healing, and you know, they say like bed rest for 3 days and then like slowly start moving around, but like you just have to really take it slow after having a baby, just because, you know, you just had a baby and there's a huge wound in your womb where the placenta was, and there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. So that was fine, and I knew that. But as the weeks went on, I realized that I started to feel this like heaviness in my vagina. And just so you guys know, I'm gonna be saying the word vagina a lot. So yeah, just so you know. But yeah, I started to experience a lot of heaviness in my vagina, especially if I was standing for a little bit too long or I was walking a little bit too much. I would feel this heaviness, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe everything is just needs to get back into place. Like, maybe this is normal, that's fine. And then as time went on, I still started to experience it, and it just felt really uncomfortable. And I was like, you know what? Something feels off here. In the early days, I realized that when I went to go pee, I would feel this heavy feeling in my vagina, and I was like, what is this? And it would feel like I had to like pee even after I just peed, like almost similar to a bladder infection, but it wasn't a bladder infection. It was just weird. So that was one thing that I was experiencing. And then long after, you know, the 6-week, you know, time frame where they say, oh, you can resume sex, when me and my husband did resume sex, it was extremely painful. And this is gonna be a little bit TMI, but just so that if you are watching this for informative purposes, like you can know what it feels like. But essentially it's like when we were like penetrating, it would feel like there was a wall there. Like this man, my vagina felt locked up. It was like, locked up, they won't let me out. Like actually it was singing, locked up, they won't let him in. Like literally, it just felt like there was a wall and like he couldn't go any further. And it was just so painful, like so extremely painful. We tried all the things. We used lube, like, you know, my pelvic floor therapist that I started seeing, because I started to realize I was having all of these issues, she was like, you know, try lube, try this, try that. She was like, try different positions. Baby girl, everything hurt. It was all painful, okay? I was like, this is crazy. And I really hated that, and I felt guilty because I was like, man, I want to be able to enjoy sex with my husband, and I feel like I can't because it's so painful because I'm having all these pelvic floor issues. So anyway, once I started seeing this pelvic floor therapist, she did an internal exam and she was able to tell me like what was really going on. It turned out that I had a bladder prolapse. So I had pushed my daughter for two and a half hours. It was almost 3 hours, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember the exact time, but it was definitely over 2 hours, almost 3 hours. And I was pushing her for a while. So because I was pushing her for so long, what ended up happening was my pelvic floor started to relax. And your pelvic floor is kind of what holds up, you know, those organs and all that stuff. So it relaxed and my bladder kind of prolapsed, came down, and that's why it kind of feels, I feel that heavy feeling and I'm having all this pain during sex. It's because it's a pelvic floor issue. So now I'm doing the work with my pelvic floor therapist to bring that pelvic floor back up and try to get everything back in place. And what is great is she did say that everything will be healed, everything will come back up. At the end of the day, it's a muscle, and as long as I'm doing the work and I'm doing the breathing and I'm doing the exercise and all the things she's telling me to do, like, it will come back up. But I just wish that I knew that this was even something that could happen, because I thought, and all I'd ever heard was like, okay, you have your vaginal birth and then your vagina goes back to normal. No one told me, hey, you could have a vaginal birth and you could potentially have a prolapse depending on how long you're pushing, depending on how big your baby is, depending on how weak your pelvic floor is, and all that stuff. And I feel like I wasn't ever really focused on my pelvic floor, to be completely honest. I don't think I've ever focused on it. And to my knowledge, even before you give birth, during pregnancy, you can see a pelvic floor therapist, and she can really help you to make sure like things stay strong, so that when you are in labor, you are using like the right breathing exercises, you're just doing the right things to kind of help maintain the integrity of your pelvic floor. So these are all things that I just wish I knew, because I didn't know it was possible. Thankfully, when my pelvic floor therapist did my internal exam, she just said, you know what, you just have a grade 2 prolapse, so everything's gonna go back. But from what she tells me, it's really common to have a prolapse. It's really common for people to experience pain after sex. She has tons and tons of clients that have this issue, and I just wish that more women were talking about this, because I think what we see is, oh, you reach your 6 weeks, you can return to intimacy again. Oh, you reach your 6 weeks, you can have sex again. But we don't really hear people say, hey, even after the 6-week mark, it was hard to return to intimacy. It was hard to, you know, enjoy sex because I was experiencing all this pain and all this stuff. So I just wish somebody had told me. What I will say is, with the C-section, I felt like that recovery sucked as well. I really did not like my C-section recovery. I feel like it took me a while to really feel back to normal. Even long after like the scar had healed and everything, I would experience like pain if like Shiloh when he was a baby, like if he kicked me there accidentally, or like if I bumped into something, like I would feel that pain even long after I had the C-section. And I know at the end of the day it was a major surgery, so it's just normal to feel like, hey, recovery is going to take some time. But I didn't enjoy that recovery process at all. But what I did enjoy was that after 6 weeks, I could return to sex. You know, I didn't have that heavy feeling in my vagina. I didn't have any prolapse issues. Like, I really liked that my vagina maintained its integrity, you know. And I think now that I am experiencing all these vaginal issues that I never thought that I would experience, I'm like, dang, should I have had a C-section? And I know that I still prefer my vaginal birth over my C-section, but I think that this part I really don't prefer and I don't like, and I just always want my vagina to be in tip-top shape, okay? So yeah, those are just some of the things that I'm experiencing right now, and I will take you guys along the journey of like healing that. And I have such an amazing pelvic floor therapist. I know she's gonna knock it out of the park. She has nothing but tons of reviews of people saying that they walked through the same journey that I'm walking through, and she helped them heal it, you know? And that's what I'm grateful for, that it is a muscle and that everything can go back to normal and will go back to normal. I'm really grateful for that. I just wish that I didn't experience this, or that recovery literally was only that 6 week mark. And I think sometimes when we're told by our doctors and medical providers, like, hey, after this period of time, everything will go back to normal, it kind of makes you feel the pressure of like, well, why am I not back to normal? You know, why am I still experiencing these issues? And that's why I really wanted to make this video, to let you know, like, if you are experiencing these issues, like, you are not alone. Another thing that actually did happen with my vaginal birth as well, which I did know about, honestly, was that you could tear during labor. You could tear while pushing the baby out. And I had a 2nd-degree tear. Honestly, after that healed, I feel like I still experience like slight tenderness, just super slight, like it's barely there, and it doesn't bother me. Like, the tear recovery was fine for me. It was fine. I will say, like, the first poop after you push your baby out and you have a tear is terrifying. Like, I literally was constipated. Like, I didn't go to the bathroom for like over a week because I was so scared to have the first poop, because I tore down there and I was just scared to have to like even deal with anything down there. But I think what the blessing was that I feel like that, in comparison to the pelvic floor issues I'm experiencing, like, it was a pretty fast recovery. I would say like by like 9 weeks, I was pretty okay down there. Like, when it came to the tear, I, once again, couldn't imagine having sex at the 6 week mark because of that tear, but I would say by the 9 week mark, everything was fairly okay. And then now I'm 5 months postpartum. I'm good. I'm good down there with the tear. There is slight tenderness, but it's good for the most part. So really, it's just the pelvic floor issues that I'm experiencing now. So yeah, I think those are the main things that I wanted to cover in this video. Just to let you guys know, like, hey, this is a potential thing that could potentially happen. I don't want to scare you. I think vaginal delivery was the best. I still had the best experience, but I just want people to know, like, things aren't just like all the time, you know? Like, it's not like, oh, you give birth and then you're good to go after that 6 week mark. Like, sometimes it doesn't play out that way, you know, and everybody's body's different. Everybody's baby size is different. Everybody's pelvic floor is different, you know? So yeah, I hope this video helped you, informed you. And if you have any other questions, please let me know below. Make sure that if you are pregnant and you're able to, if you could see a pelvic floor therapist. I think it's just really great to just do some preventative stuff and take preventative measures would be really great. So I would highly recommend it. It's something that I wish I did. But yeah, so if you had any questions, please comment below. Please like this video, watch another video, stick around, help your girls watch time. But yeah, till the next video, guys, bye.